Welcome. We up and running, Alen? Yeah, great. Welcome everybody to this what will be a very interesting webinar and a bit of a respite from the times that we're in. I know I'm looking forward to it and just happy to have the chance to reconnect with all of you. Welcome everybody. As you're coming in, we have close to 400 people registered for this webinar. We'll see how many we have. Uh, we've been doing a lot of webinars here in Hebrew for the Israeli populace, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well before we get into the good news from the birds, because I don't know, we're all we're all anxious to get a lot of good news. Had some good news today, but we're remaining we're hopeful here in these very challenging times. Welcome everybody. I see the pace has been slowing down, um, but we will be waiting another couple minutes to get going officially here. I am Jay Shofet here with SPNI, Chevra Laganat Teva. I haven't seen who's here, but I'm sure most of you are familiar. Please put your names and let us know where you are from in the chat. We'll see your names. And any questions you have today, of course, put them in the chat or in the Q&A is even better. Uh, looking forward to uh, looking forward to getting underway and updating you a little bit about what SPNI has been doing during the war in the last 9, 10 days and what we've been doing despite the war and then getting into some good news from the birds. We're all ready for some good news, and those birds, especially that yellow-throated black-beaked bird on the picture. I'm sure there's some good news from that yellow-throated thing, the creature. Beautiful little bird. I don't know what that is, but
You'll know
so
soon. You'll know soon.
I will know soon. Yes, it's a teaser. Um, we got so much birding stuff going on here, guys. It's like they are just continuing with their migration and their nesting and whatever they do. It's like I think it's almost like the missiles aren't hitting, but uh we'll hear more about that soon. Well, I think maybe another minute or so people we've really climbed quite a bit. 120 people already here, so really looking forward. Welcome everybody. Bruchim Habayim to this one of a series of webinars from the Chevra Laganat Teva series that has been going on here in English since COVID times, since early in COVID. I think we've done over 100 webinars and more than a couple of them with Yoav and Alen, several every year, actually. Dr. Yoav Perlman is the head of our birding division, BirdLife Israel. And hello, Marcia. And really, please let us know where you're from. It's always fun to see people from all over. FYI, we've had over the last year or so people from about 21 countries uh, um, checking into our webinars from really all over the globe. So we're really appreciate that. Hi from Norway, in Norway, and also, I can say a similar number of currencies. Donations have been made to SPNI in the last year in about 20, 21 different currencies. So I love our global reach, and I appreciate all of you out there watching and listening and engaging and supporting. We appreciate it always, and these days more than ever. Um, a special shout out to all of you in Israel. It's like kind of a quiet group, but you're about 20% of our audience, so or more sometimes. So we appreciate that as well. And you all should know, and any Hebrew speaker here should know that we have a very rich menu of Hebrew webinars going on right now, and some Hebrew webinars going on in general, especially to our members. And Alen who's here with us today with Yoav. We'll talk to that. Elen is a longtime director of the Jerusalem Bird Observatory and um, now works on birding tourism and is sort of now the unofficial webinar master of SPNI for, like I said, our very busy schedule and popular schedule in Hebrew for adults and kids. So, so thank you everybody for being here. I guess we're kind of getting underway. Um, I really appreciate everybody being here from all over. We'd love to know where you're from. Keep your questions in the chats or in the Q&A feature, and we'll try to get to them at the end. I'm just going to open up now with a few minutes to update you on what is going on in Israel. I'm sure you're all like we are glued to the news, and of course, everybody has their own news sources, but everybody, knows in general that this is for us here in Israel. I would say we're all basically tense, we're scared, we're anxious, we're depressed, we're angry. But I think in general we remain hopeful, and today we're proud. I think I can speak for most Israelis that the whatever degree we feel less of a threat from Iran on the nuclear sense, that's got to be good news for the world. And it's I don't know, one of the things that's keeping us going here seems to be a lot of support for that here. But that's just I don't know, sort of a veneer over the last 10 days, in many ways over the last 625 days. It has not been easy. It has been challenging, I think, for so many, almost everybody on a personal level. The circles of radiating circles of trauma and post-trauma from all of the trauma we've been through in the last year and 10 months, 9 months. It's accumulated, and in the last 10 days, it's really gone off the charts. I mean, the destruction that we've seen in Israel from the 1 in 10 missiles that hits, or today it was a little more than that, but we've been um, the ORF, the home front, has been trained to get into our shelters. And I should say, by the way, that there's a decent chance there's going to be a siren tonight, and they tend to be all over Israel. I think what we're going to do, Yoav is working from his mamad, his safe room. It's a safe space in the apartment. It's called a mamad. All buildings built since 1992, all apartments and homes have to have one of these things. It's a steel reinforced concrete room, and it's been largely saving people, except for a one direct hit of these humongous missiles on a safe room. I think that was in Petah Tikva. The safe rooms have been saving lives. It's unbelievable. There were, I think, close to 140 people injured today, but almost all of them very lightly injured. Um, and also, what do you call it? Harada, people, who had anxiety attacks. But SPNI is muddling through this as we always do, but professionally and proudly. When the war started, we our field schools we didn't have to do anything, but we've been getting requests from soldiers, and like we did into the October 7th events, we've been housing some soldiers and units in our field schools, various field schools around the country. All the field schools are closed. As you probably know, Israel is shut down since yesterday. It's in the last couple days, totally shut down. The last week, several days were largely shut down. So we're in a weird netherworld of work, not work, in SPNI and people in general. Technically, technically there were 4 days last week where we could have gone into the office. Almost nobody did. People don't want to be on the roads. They keep telling us to stay very close to our shelters, even though they're giving us a 10-minute warning now, usually, before we have to go in. But still, nobody wants to be on the road, stuck in a traffic jam. So it's very weird, but a lot of people want to work, and a lot of people just feel an obligation to work. And we're sitting home anyway. A lot of us have been working remotely and can work remotely, so that's going on. So the regular work has been going on to some extent in a pace. For example, some of you might have heard the webinar a couple weeks ago about the Dead Sea. Tamar Lev, we're organizing, and I think we have a meeting later on this week. A Zoom was going to be an in-person meeting of all the civil society organizations involved in this fight to save the Dead Sea. Just to quickly let you know, there's um, soon there will be a law that will also outline the tender that is needed for the franchise of the Dead Sea Works for the next 30 years, starting in 2030 or next 20 years. We're not even sure. And we're all over this issue. We know the only way to really save the Dead Sea is to increase the flow of water from the Jordan. A lot of other stuff has to happen too, but that has to happen. And returning water to nature has always been one of our, or the last several years, it's one of our prime directives and all kinds of things. So the Dead Sea stuff is continuing. Um, the official planning committees of the country were theoretically largely shut down, but some of them in the north, especially, they're continuing on Zoom, continuing at paces if nothing happened. These planning committees are where the government is trying to, run roughshod over environmental regulations often. And, one of the things we do on a daily, weekly basis and have for now, um, 50 years has been statutorily guarding, safeguarding, watchdogging the planning system of Israel to mitigate unsustainable damage and advance sustainable planning. And so that's been going on. The Katsa, the whole Eilat oil pipeline issue keeps raising its head, and we're constantly monitoring that issue as well. Worried that the zero risk policy that the previous government implemented has been sort of shunted, and they're really trying to um, increase the oil transfer at the port in Eilat. So there's a lot of regular stuff going on. But as I said, we had two big reactions, and I think we've been contributing our efforts and professionalism to this war effort, and especially the home front effort, where millions of Israelis are cooped up in their homes all day, every day, in by really offering a series of ecotherapy through online. We were hosting we're hosting the soldiers in the field schools. By the way, nobody else is in the field schools because nobody's moving around the country at all. But soldiers are. We're doing that, and we are doing webinars. And Elen Casal is with us here in her home, and I believe Sur Hadassah, and can tell us she's been the webinar master of SPNI. She's been doing that for a while on a smaller basis. And Alen, tell us what's been going on and who's been viewing us in the last 9, 10 days.
Hi Jay, and hi everybody. Yeah, we started doing our webinars both in Hebrew and English back in the days of Corona, which seems so long ago now, when we realized that people were stuck at home and needed some connection with the outside world and with nature. And we became very quickly aware of how much nature heals and how much we need nature, even if it's on our screens. And the coming together via a webinar helps us to reach out to our community, our friends both here in Israel and overseas, and give people half hour, an hour of something else to think of besides what's going on out there. We can tune off from the news a little bit and focus on something that makes us happy or that interests us in a different way. And I know from the point of view from the staff and the people who are giving the lectures that it also helps us to focus on something, to have this kind of work to do. I know for myself it has been a lifesaver through Corona, through the aftermath of the 7th of October 2 years ago, and this week it's becoming very important. So we started doing webinars last week. We had one webinar with over 1,500 people, Israelis, and this week we're doing sort of a virtual summer camp with something going on every day for kids, from arts and crafts to storytelling and some lectures in the evening as well for adults, and just trying to keep people engaged and uh, and to tune out just a little bit. So I'm glad you guys have joined us. And one of the lectures, the lecture that had over 1,500 people last week, was Gidon Perlman, who the director of BirdLife Israel.
Yoav, Yoav.
Not given.
Why do I do this all the time?
The second time.
Gidon, of course, is Yoav's brother, and he's always in our minds. And I know he's online. Hi, Gidon. But Yoav, Dr. Yoav Perlman, the director of BirdLife Israel, is here, of course. And so we asked him to do the same lecture, but in English, because we can all use good news, and he has some good news from the birds. So that's my introduction. Yoav, I believe
Without
the
further
floor
ado,
is yours.
thanks. So, thanks, Jay. Thanks, Alan, for the long introductions, and let's get going. Um, so, it's not happening. Okay. I want to stress that from my point of view, all the good news that I will be showing you, for me, it's not only escapism. For several reasons. First of all, it's important for me and for all of us to remember that while we are shut in our houses and thinking about all the things that are happening to us, um, the wildlife, nature outside is still happening. The animals, the birds are doing their things. The streams are running. The bees are buzzing and the flowers are flowering. So things are still going on, and it's not we're not the center of the universe. There are other things happening, so we need to remember that. And second, and that's very important, for everyone working in conservation, it's really, really important to focus on good news and on success stories, even if they're small. It's really important and empowering to focus on them. If we only thought about the big picture, we probably need to get hospitalized with depression. We must sometimes focus on our small victories to be able to raise our heads up and move forward. And that's what we'll do today. Um, so in my presentation, I will focus on a few areas of our work at BirdLife Israel that involve good news. And I'll share some nice stories, positive stories from our birding world. I'll introduce you to a few new breeding bird species, new birds that arrived in Israel naturally and started breeding here. And we're very happy to have them as part of our avifauna, of our bird community here in Israel. We'll talk about some exciting species, vagrants that arrived here as migrants, and they're always exciting and igniting our imagination, where they came from and where they're going. And finally, I'll talk about some birding activities that we're doing. Alan talked about the healing power of nature, so I'll talk about some of these activities. First of all, I'll start with the new breeding species, and I'll focus about the native species that arrived here, and they're here to stay, not just one-time visitors, but they're actually settled down here. And I'm looking at these native species and differentiating them from alien or invasive species. People who are here in Israel are very well familiar with the myna and the ring-necked parakeet and the monk parakeet that have become very dominant in some parts of the country. But they did not arrive naturally. They arrived as a result of human activities. And these species that I'll talk about now arrived naturally in natural processes, and they settled down, and we're very happy to have them. So the first species, maybe one of the most prominent immigrants in recent decade, is the black-winged kite. It's a small or medium-sized raptor, bird of prey. It has this stunning red eye. It really is a fantastic looking bird. Um, it used to be a mega rarity in Israel. I started birding in the 1980s, and I saw my first one in Israel only in 2003. It took me almost 20 years to see my first one in Israel. I saw it in November 2003 in Kfar Upin. I used to live back in Beersheba in the south of Israel, and I had to travel 3 times from Beersheba to Kfar Upin in the north of Israel to see my first bird. I dipped on it twice until third time when I saw it distantly. I got some poor record shots, the one that you can see on the right. It's not a great photo, but I was very happy to see my first black-winged kite in Israel. But that was sort of the turn of the tide. Since then, things really changed, and they became more and more frequent in Israel. More and more individuals arrived and started to stay for longer. There were few breeding attempts during the late 2000s. And then in 2011, I was very fortunate to find the first breeding pair together with Amir Balaban in Agamon, Hula, in the north of Israel. It was very, very exciting to find the first nest with chicks. This is an adult coming with a vole to feed the chicks. And it was really fantastic to find them. And since then, they've spread all over Israel, from the north to the south, down to Eilat. They've climbed up the mountains to Jerusalem. They're urban, or at least suburban birds in many parts of the country. The map on the left is from our breeding bird atlas that happened. The data collection happened until 2023. And since then, they've spread even further. I live in the center of the country. This photo at the bottom, I took it 2 years ago, I think, after the breeding season. 16 black-winged kites in one photo. Some areas, they're really, really dense, and it's lovely to have them because they're really beautiful birds. And they're actually adapted very well to the agricultural system in Israel. They feed mainly on voles and mice in agricultural areas, so the farmers love them. They sort of join forces with our kestrels during the day shifts, and our barn owls do the night shifts in reducing the density of rodents in agricultural areas. Eventually, that leads to less use of pesticides in these areas. So it's great to have these black-winged kites with us. Another fascinating story that happened not too long ago, in June 2022, a yellow-throat, a guy named Nadav Israel. He's a good photographer and a birder. He went birding in the Golan Heights, and he photographed a bird that he couldn't recognize. This is from his Facebook post in 2022, that he's asking for help with the identification of this bird with a black beak and a yellow throat that he saw singing on a fence in the Golan Heights. He didn't know what it was. He posted it on Facebook, and hours later, he created quite a huge storm within the Israeli birding community, because it was a bird that was unfamiliar to most of us. A handful of records in Israel before that bird, and many of us got there the next day to watch this beautiful bird, the yellow-throated sparrow.
כולם פטריוטים, מוסיפים פטריות מרינה לכל מנה. היא לא רק בריאה, היא פלא הבריאה.
This is a beautiful video by Amir Balaban. You can see the beautiful habitat in the Golan Heights in the summer. This is the yellow-throated sparrow singing on a wire. And they were actually found to breed inside those pylons. In it goes. You can hear bee eaters in the background. It's really beautiful there. So it was really attractive to see these birds. For many of us, it was the first time to see them in Israel. I can hear a turtle dove singing. These are recently fledged young. Beautiful song of a turtle dove in the background. Look at this. Look at those long wings. It's a long-distance migrant migrating in winter to the Indian subcontinent. So that was a beautiful video by Amir Balaban. And what we discovered that it was not one single bird, but there is actually a small population breeding there. We found something like 10 pairs in a pretty restricted part of the Golan Heights, but they're very beautiful birds. We're happy to have them returning every year, and this year they've returned as well. They breed here. This is a photo from the first year of recently fledged young, and it's great to have them as an addition to our list of breeding species in Israel. Over 220 breeding species in Israel, so that's a new one. And it's great to have them with us, and it's nice that they arrived, and it was not a one-time event, but they actually stuck around, and we're happy to have a small population of them in this beautiful part of the Golan Heights. Another interesting story is a chaffinch. So the chaffinch, it is a well-known winter visitor in Israel. It's a very common bird in Europe, of course, but in Israel, they're very common in winter. Large flocks of them come and spend the winter in Israel, all over the country. The Jerusalem Bird Observatory is a fantastic place to see them in winter. However, from about 10 years ago, we started to see a change in their patterns in Israel, and we started to hear them singing and displaying, and then we found the first breeding pairs in the north of the country, first in the Golan Heights, and then in other parts of the north as well, in the northern Golan, in the upper Galilee. Some parts of the upper Galilee were badly hit during this war, and some forest areas were burned down, but there are still enough forest areas in the north for them to breed. And also this year, they're breeding in good numbers, and certainly we're seeing them spreading all the time from year to year. We can connect that with regeneration of some Mediterranean scrub areas in the country, like in the Upper Galilee, like in the Carmel. The trees are growing and becoming, the habitat is becoming more rich, and the chaffinches are here, and they're showing us that they like this kind of habitat, and we're seeing them here in increasing numbers from year to year, and already they're quite widespread. I would say something in the area of hundreds of breeding pairs in Israel, in the north of the country, year after year. Similar story is the chiffchaff, common chiffchaff, again, a common migrant and winter visitor in Israel, very common. And from 2013, when we did some breeding surveys up on Golan Heights, we started to find them singing and breeding. And since then, they've become more and more widespread. Now also in the Galilee in different parts, and more pairs, again, with the regenerating Mediterranean scrub on Mount Hermon and in the Galilee, we're seeing more and more chiffchaffs. We even trapped some birds for a study that we did. We took some DNA samples, and we joined forces with a team working across their breeding range in Europe. We provided our DNA samples to them, and it was discovered that the Mount Hermon birds are actually a unique subspecies, a novel subspecies that was not found before, different from other chiffchaffs breeding across the range in Europe and Asia. So it was nice to be part of this research. Another European species that has colonized Israel in the last decade or so is common wood pigeon. Again, like the chiffchaff, it was a fairly common, not very common, but fairly common winter visitor, and it started to breed in 2014. The first breeding pair was found by Dror Galili. This is a photo from last year from the Negev, but what's interesting, an interesting story about this common wood pigeon is that it breeds in very different parts of the country in very different habitats. I mean, they like big trees, but they're found from the Golan Heights down to the western Negev, to very dry areas in the Negev desert with some stands of eucalyptus trees. And we're seeing them in different parts of Jerusalem. and it's great to see them colonizing new parts of the country, and they really became quite widespread across the country within 10 years. Now let's talk a bit about some night birds. So we have 3 species of nightjar found in Israel. Both the Nubian nightjar and the Egyptian nightjar are very local, pretty rare residents in arid parts of the country. And for forever, it was known that the Eurasian nightjar is a migrant, pretty widespread. Again, the Jerusalem Bird Observatory is a fantastic place to see them both in spring and in fall. So that's how we knew nightjars in Israel. That's what we knew about nightjars in Israel. And then about 10 years ago or 12 years ago, they were found breeding. Like many other night birds, we don't know much about what's going on at night, and there are lots of interesting night discoveries in recent years. And these Eurasian nightjars are one of these great discoveries, first found by Adoram Shirichai, breeding just south of the Kinneret. We went out on a quick study in 2015, and we found them breeding along the Jordan Valley, almost all the way down to the Dead Sea, so pretty widespread there. And this guy, Menachem Adar, he found them breeding in, again, very different habitats, in planted forests in the northwestern Negev, and in Mediterranean scrub in the hills, up in the mountains, in the Jerusalem hills. So it's very interesting. Here on the right is a research student, Marie, from Germany, working with Professor Yossi Yovel in the Tel Aviv University. She's studying their movements and their ecology and their vocalizations. So I joined them for a night of nightjar research recently, and it was quite fascinating to learn more about them. They have a very fascinating song. This is their song. I hope you can hear it. It sounds like a monotonous insect. It just goes on and on and on and on for long, long, long minutes. This is the song of a male. Females find it attractive. What can I do? So these are our new breeding species, and now a few rarities that found in Israel, additions to our extending Israeli list. There's something in the area of 560 species found in Israel, depends according to which list you follow or which taxonomy, something like that. And every year we have 1 or 2 or 3 new species that arrive in Israel, are seen here for the first time. And the most recent addition is the sharp-tailed sandpiper. That happened in Eilat just over a month ago. Shachar Shalev, a very keen birder who lives down in Eilat, found this East Siberian wonder. He found it late in the afternoon. 2 other Eilat birders got there in time before dark and managed to connect with this bird. Then night fell. Early that night, I jumped in the car with a few of my friends. We drove through the night to get to Eilat first thing in the morning, and to our disappointment, the bird was gone. It did not do the decent thing, and it did not wait for us. It moved on during the night. So that was a bit of a blow, but not too bad. Yeah, it's always great to be down in Eilat and appreciate all the fantastic birds down there. So it wasn't all grim, but we wish we had seen that bird. But anyway, it's gone. It was gone, but maybe if there was one, there will be another one. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Another wonderful bird that graced our skies in recent months was this young lappet-faced vulture. This bird has a long history in Israel. It used to breed until the 1980s, and then it became extinct. I used to see it as a kid driving down to Eilat. I used to see it from the bus in the Acacia Reserve north of Eilat, but they haven't been breeding in Israel for 40 years now. But still, every few years, we get a vagrant, a visitor from where they still breed in the Arabian Peninsula. This is the subspecies that breeds there. There are other subspecies that breed in Africa. They look a bit different, but the species is globally threatened. So it's becoming more and more difficult to see them. But still, every few years, we have one visitor coming to Israel. This bird was spotted by Iftach Magen. He works for the Israel Nature and Parks Authority. He was doing some work in the Western Negev and bumped into this beast. It's a huge bird with a wingspan of over 3 meters, over 9 feet. It's really a huge bird, and it was fascinating to see. He saw it together with another photographer who accompanied him, Eyal Bribram, who took these fantastic photos, but it was not seen again for 3 weeks until it was relocated by Lior Dor, a very keen birder who now works in the Avdat Gorge, works for the INPA as well. And he spotted it hanging out with the local griffins. If you watch our online cameras, so it's in the same area where our griffin camera is broadcasting. And he saw it there, and it did stick around there, hanging out with the vultures for a few days. Quite a few birders managed to connect with it, and it was fantastic to see it. So as I said, it was seen a few times before in recent years. This is another one seen by Meidad Goren, or photographed by Meidad Goren in Chai Bar Yotveta, another reserve down in the south, not far from Eilat, in 2021. And this is a very rare photo, actually from the 1960s, taken by Dror Galili, of a lappet-faced vulture sitting on its nest. Look at that huge nest on top of an acacia tree down in the Arava Valley. This is one of the sites where they persisted until the early 1980s, until they stopped breeding in Israel. And still, maybe there's hope that we'll manage to reintroduce them back to Israel one day. Another interesting story, a much smaller bird, is a bird that we're probably seeing more and more of them in Israel. But what changed is, I think, not their status, but because they were recognized as a full species, we suddenly became more aware of them. Until a few years ago, they were regarded as a subspecies of a pretty common bird in Israel, red-rumped swallow. And when they became recognized as a full species as a result of genetic studies, we paid more attention, and we started to notice that they are rare, but probably quite regular winter visitors. This was the most recent record in January this year in Eilat. It was found by Tzvi and Noach, two young guys doing their civil service, sort of a gap year before the military service at the Eilat Birding Center, and they found this red-rump swallow. It was the first time that many of us managed to connect with this new species, and it was great to see them and see this one, and it showed very well. Another beautiful bird that maybe is in the process of becoming established in Israel is this gray-headed swamp hen. Really brilliant colors on this bird, purple and green and blue, with this red huge bill and mask. It's got long claws that enable it to walk on floating vegetation in the water. It's quite a large bird. And in recent years, we're seeing more and more of them. They're still rare, but maybe there's a trend happening here. Last year, there was a very accommodating one in Hamapil, in the center of the country. And just last month, Ron Haran found another one near Rishon LeZion, south of Tel Aviv. So maybe we're in the beginning of their colonization in Israel. We'll see. Tree sparrow is another rare species that was seen for the first time by many, many, many birders in Israel. Early this year, in January 2025, they were found by another young birder, Amit Sadeh, just north of Tel Aviv in the Poleg Marsh. Three birds were seen there for over a month. We were hoping that they maybe would stay for a bit longer, maybe even breed, but they didn't. This is quite a widespread sparrow that breeds across Europe and Asia, but in Israel it's very rare. It's unique among sparrows because most sparrows have distinct sexual dimorphism. The male and the female look different, but in this species, the male and female look the same. So we don't know whether those three birds were males or female or they or them or who knows what. But we were happy to host them for a few weeks in Israel. These two birds that I'm showing here were discovered as a result of bird banding that we're doing in different projects in Israel, part of our monitoring programs. Both of these are tiny, tiny birds. Both of them weigh 10 grams together, each one of them about 5 grams. Very, very small birds, but long distance migrants, especially the Pallas's leaf warbler that breeds in North Siberian or Eastern Siberian forests and winters in Southeast Asia. And one of them made it to Magan Michael, to our newly established birding park, found there by Itai Bloch in April this year, doing his monitoring there as part of the restoration work that we're doing in the birding park. Now Itai is in Miluim. I hope he's doing okay. The bird on the right is a firecrest, slightly shorter distance migrant, but still a very big rarity in Israel, found by Darren Burns in Yerucham, part of the monitoring that he's doing there. So it's a demonstration of the importance of bird banding for understanding which birds we have in Israel. Here I want to present a Senegal thickney. It's a rare bird. This was, I think, the third record ever in Israel. And the reason I wanted to show it is because it was found by two teenagers, Jonathan Gordon and Uri Lao, both 15 years old. Found it last year in September in Mayan Tzvi, just north of Magan Michael. It's a unique, very, very unique and bizarre species, close to the Eurasian thickney that's very common in Israel, but they look a bit different. But these young guys have very sharp eyes and they have so much knowledge at their young age of 15. They're already really one of the best birders in Israel, some of the best birders in Israel. And I can't wait for them, for that generation, to replace Alan and myself. We want to retire already and to leave the ground for these very, very promising young guys. They're excellent birders, but they're already very involved in many conservation projects that we do. And we can't wait to see these guys grow up and take over the birding and conservation scene in Israel. Now a bit about our birding activities. We need to speed up a bit. So I talked a bit about Magan Michael. It's a newly established birding center along the Mediterranean coast. We're operating it in collaboration with Kibbutz Magan Michael, with a few other partners. It's part of our restoration project, Startup Nature. We're restoring fish ponds there, and we're making fantastic habitats for birds and for people. We're operating much of the activities for people there through our field school there, the Chofa Carmel Field School, and doing a lot of great work there. You can see a ferruginous duck in the photo on the left, one of the rare birds that adopted our newly restored fish ponds there. Another new birding center, the Ramat HaNegev Birding Center, that was also opened up or founded just a few months ago. There are two people in the slide on the right, Dan Alon, our CEO, and Raya Shorki, the CEO of the Nature and Parks Authority. were there in the ceremony, and it was great to sort of celebrate this partnership between SPNI and INPA with this new birding center run by Meidad Goren, doing outreach and education work there, but also lots of conservation work in the region of the Negev. Our restoration project, Startup Nature, is growing from strength to strength. We're restoring more and more wetlands around the country. Nadav is our man on the ground leading those restoration efforts. So in Kfar Upin, we're extending the area that is being restored with our partners there, Kibbutz Kfar Upin. And in the Hula Valley, we have a new restoration project. It's a very exciting project with two new kibbutzim right on the border with Lebanon. It's part of their rehabilitation process after the war with Lebanon. It's not an easy year this year to restore up in the north because we had a very, very serious drought and the water sources are very limited, but we're certainly anticipating a fantastic restoration project up in the Hula Valley as well, and we're looking in other directions as well. The Kabbalah project is in the planning process now, but I hope that in a few years we'll be able to report back from there and to say we succeeded. It's a huge swamp, a historical swamp that was drained and cultivated and habituated, and now we want to let the swamp return to the Kabbalah. We have some excellent partners there, Kibbutz Magan Michael and the Regional Council and the Drainage Authority and the Nature and Parks Authority and a few other partners. It's a very, very strong partnership, and together I hope that we'll make it happen with the support of Yad Nadiv. So it's looking great, and I hope it will happen in a few years. If you're not familiar yet with our online nest cams, go to our website birds.org.il. We have currently 2 cameras operating there day and night, one on these amazing short-toed eagles and another on the griffins in the Negev. So as I said, when we're stuck in our rooms, in our safe rooms, nature is still happening out there with the great stories, with the challenges. Just today, we had a drama in our vulture nest. The chick fell, one of the chicks we're following fell out of the nest down a steep cliff, and there's an effort now to return it back to its nest overnight. So lots of drama there. So if you're not following our nest cams yet, please do. And I reached my final slide, and in this final slide, I want to talk 1 minute about what's going on in Israel. So we have here four sparrow species that are found in Israel. We talked a bit about the tree sparrows and house sparrows, common and Spanish, and Dead Sea sparrow. For those of you that don't speak Hebrew, sparrow in Hebrew is dro, and in Hebrew, dro is freedom. And we must remember in these days that we're only thinking about Iran and Iran, what will happen with Iran. We must not forget the 50 hostages that are still held by Hamas for 600, and I don't remember exactly how many days. They must be released now. They must not be forgotten amidst this war with Iran. That must be the top priority of our government today, to bring these hostages back. We want to see the freedom of these people now. It's our government's responsibility to do that, and we're looking forward to their return now. Thank you all for joining and for listening. If you want to support our work at BirdLife Israel, you can use this QR code to support us. This is where you can find us online, and I believe that Alan will put in the chat the link as well.
Yes, it's there. You can scan the barcode or click on the link in the chat or find us, of course, anytime. Yoav, thank you so much.
Thank
Really,
you.
really interesting. Um, I'm sorry I haven't been doing my homework because I have a few questions of my own. Okay,
Okay,
nothing particular in the questions and answers. So let me ask you a couple questions. First, the
sure.
first one is just out of curiosity, what percent of the time would you estimate over your life do you drive hours to see a bird in Israel and it's not there? Like half the time, most of the time, rarely, what?
Um, Most birds, when they arrive from long distances, they are quite exhausted. Many of them traveled for thousands of miles to arrive to where they were found in Israel, and they're quite exhausted. So it's quite typical for them to stick around for a day or two or even longer. So I would say 1 out of 10, it's called twitches, is a dip. So we twitch birds to add them to our personal list. You know, it's good fun. It's always fascinating to see these birds that arrive from long distances. I would say that 1 out of 8 or 10 is a dip that the bird won't stay, but usually they do stay. That's why we keep trying.
That's interesting. Only migrating birds, though? Because what if it's just a native bird? Well, I guess if a native bird, you would never twitch it because you've seen it a million times.
Yeah, because it's regular, but however, as I showed in this presentation, some birds, you know, they arrive first as mega rarities, and we twitch them like I twitched that black-winged kite and the first yellow-throated sparrow, but then they become more and more frequent, and you know, a new trend develops until
Right.
they eventually stay. So we
But
see we see sometimes quite rapid processes like that.
uh-huh. Like, when you see a bird on, you get a picture, there's a bird in a sitting on a particular branch, and 3 hours later you get there. It's not like you're finding him on that same branch necessarily, but you just stay in the area for a while and they
Yeah,
show up.
yeah, and very often, you know, people are there and sort of
Oh,
stay
right. Okay. Somebody's been
connected
following it. Right.
with it, and then when you arrive, you ask the other people on site, "Where is it? Can you show it to us?" But you know, the greatest fun for me, and that's why I wake up every morning and I head out birding, is to try and find the rare birds myself, and it does happen. You know, sometimes other people find them and I twitch them, but to find a rare bird yourself that other people, you know, jump in the car and travel from Tel Aviv to Eilat to see that. That's
But
very.
when you literally do this every morning, I know you go birding every morning. I mean, and you're literally looking for rare birds every morning?
I'm alert. It doesn't happen every morning, of course, but I'm alert all the time. That's the wonderful thing about birding in Israel. Israel is such a major global bird migration hotspot that everywhere in Israel, there's a potential to find a mega rarity, a bird from far away. And indeed, but you know, I walk sometimes with my dog out of my house, and outside of my house in like a small natural area walking distance from my house, I have found some very rare birds. But that's the quality of Israel. Israel is like a huge migratory hotspot, and that's one of the wonders of birding in Israel. So there's
We're
a
a birding
potential.
superpower, not just a birding
We
superpower.
totally are. Totally
Awesome.
are.
Um, awesome. And here's another question I have. What's in layman's terms and briefly, for not people who don't have doctorates in ornithology or in general, in conservation, what's the big deal about a subspecies? I mean, I thought a species means that they can breed and have offspring that can breed. So
That's
a
right.
subspecies,
That's
is
right.
it just a stepping stone to try to do the genetics to figure out the
In many cases, indeed, it is sort of an intermediate phase before evolutionary paths will make it a full species. And indeed, in some species, these evolutionary processes are quite rapid,
really,
and we can see speciation even in our lifetime. But
really,
for other species, it's really a matter of better research, better understanding of the ecology of the birds, but also of their genetic structure. The genetic research is becoming much more advanced and accessible, and there's new information being learned all the time. And certainly, we're seeing more subspecies being recognized as species. It has an importance from a conservation point of view because when countries set out a list of endangered species and these species get conservation priorities at a national level or even at an international level, species is sort of the unit that's receiving the focus, not subspecies usually. So when a subspecies is being elevated into a full species, if it is threatened, it will become a species of global conservation concern, and that makes it sort of a higher priority for conservation.
Interesting. And so there is a question here. If you could say a few words, I'm not sure what this person was asking, but a few words about seabirds. But wait, before that, I have another quick question back to your twitching. Do you ever set out, or is it a thing to just set out to find a rare species? And is there a way you choose a habitat, or do you try to go to different kinds of habitats, or how does that work?
Yes. So first of all, there are times of year that are more prone to this kind of vagrancy. Some
Peak
part of
migration, you mean,
not
or
only
no?
migration, for instance, African birds actually very often arrive in Israel in summer, late spring and summer. So it depends on the weather, it depends on the habitat. So for instance, for you said seabirds. So for seabirds, rare seabirds arrive in Israel when there's storms pushing them from
Oh,
deep sea towards our coasts. If there are strong weather systems that sort of knock birds down, that they can't keep on migrating, that's when we often find birds. And there are hotter hotspots. So all of the country, as I said, is a big hotspot, but there are hotter hotspots. For instance, the Eilat area is a great place to look for these rare birds in the Bet Shean Valley around Kfar so there are some special places, but we maybe have time for two more questions.
not sure there are any more questions actually. Um,
You started asking something about seabirds before,
oh, she
maybe?
just, yeah, somebody just asked, what about seabirds? I don't know.
Okay,
Can you?
so I'll say that Israel isn't a great place for watching seabirds. The reason is that the highest diversity of seabirds is very deep at sea. So when where the sea is very deep, and there's sort of this upswelling of plankton from deep sea. That's where the highest diversity of seabirds is found. And both our seas, the Red Sea or the Gulf of Aqaba and the Mediterranean, they're not deep seas. So the diversity of true seabirds is a bit lower there. But still, we get some interesting stuff here every now and then. And, sometimes there's stuff that's interesting nationally, not quite internationally. But it's always interesting to watch seabirds in Israel.
Very interesting, Yoav. Thank you very much for this
Thank you.
great respite and
And
good news.
yeah, and let's keep them good news coming, eh?
Yes, I want to thank very much Alen for checking out, helping us in the beginning with the webinars. Thank you, Yoav, also for all your webinars, and you, Alen, for really keeping the Israeli populace as close to nature as they can be, stuck in their homes and within minutes of their own safe rooms, or shelters.
So Jay, just one thing, a lot of people had initially registered tonight to see a presentation by Yuval Dax. Unfortunately, Yuval was stuck overseas, unable to come back to Israel. He finally made it back this morning, and we will reschedule that talk in the near future, and we will let you know
All right,
as
great.
soon as possible. Okay?
Thank you very much for that, Alen. I want to thank Naama Gat on my staff who's doing back office tonight. First time kind of doing it solo from her home in north of Tel Aviv. So thank you very much, Naama. And David Amichai is usually here, might be viewing, and he's in Miluim as well and doing his reserve duty, but he's on a 24-hour respite. So hopefully he's getting some respite. And this was great for the soul. I mean, I always learn about new birds, and it's great to see the new birds that get added this coming every year. 556 species here. Who can
And
beat that?
counting and counting.
And counting. Which countries have more? Costa Rica? Is there anything? Who has more than us?
Well, there are a few countries that have more than us, but for our part of the world, we're doing pretty well.
Which countries have more? Brazil, Central America, what?
Many. Well,
Many?
Colombia and Bolivia have like 1,600 or something like that.
Did you say
But
Libya?
Colombia and Bolivia.
Oh, Bolivia. Okay, Colombia and
Yeah.
Bolivia.
So
Landlocked Bolivia. Doesn't even have any
yeah,
seabirds. Um,
yeah, but they have the tropics. So yeah. But
wow.
we can't complain. We have the great migration, and we have lots of birds here.
Per
So
kilometer, per square kilometer, we're far the biggest,
I don't
right?
know. These are Yossi Leshem statistics. Let me tell you.
Well, they're accurate
Uh,
then, in other words, you're saying.
we're happy with the birds that we have.
Well, it's great to be happy with birds. Alen, thank you very much. Thank you. We're right at the top of the hour now. Guys, thank everybody who joined from all over the States and Australia and Norway and UK. And we really, really appreciate everybody's support and engagement. It really it buoys our spirits to connect to you all in these days. I mean, really, I haven't been more than a 500-meter radius from my home in 10 days, basically. So I don't know about everybody else, but we're going a little stir crazy. So it was great to have our horizons expanded by the birds, big and small. Really, really appreciate it. All of you, thank you both, Len and Yoav, for the work in Israel as well. We're getting a lot of positive feedback, and you all abroad should know. I mean, we are Israel's just behemoth on the landscape of nature conservation and especially birding conservation. And so many people learn from us in the field and virtually as well. So
Yeah.
kids and
I,
adults.
I can't wait for fall to come, and we'll do those live webinars again.
Looking forward to it, the
Yeah.
Migration Live webinars, and maybe things will be open and visitable in the fall. And we're all working, Alen as well, on day trips for people who are here. And we have a trip theoretically going in early November from Nature Israel in the States and Canada, an English-speaking tour. Anybody is invited. It's on our website, or you can contact us. And thank you for your support and engagement, everybody from around the world. Leanne and Maggie, I'll give a shout out to our longtime former board chair and in New Jersey. We just visited many of you, Dan and I, in the last month. It seems like, I don't know, these last 10 days seem like 10 months. But I was in the States recently with Dan, and we'll be back in the fall. Looking forward to meeting many of you in person, States, Canada. If you're interested in having us speak, or maybe having Yoav and Alen come over and do local birding tours, these guys are excellent birders in the North American context as well. Let us know and let your friends know. And if you want us to sign anybody up for our mailing lists and our webinars, also please let us know. Thank you very much to both of you, to everybody, and to Nama. Signing off. I'm so glad we got through this with no sirens. I hope I didn't jinx it just now. But yeah. So
Peace and love. Peace and love.
Vitra out until next week or the week after.